putting little tufts of static grass on there, etc., to make it look more interesting. And also on this part here where he's dug the hole out, you could put some tufts of grass around that are coming through the dirt. But then I was kind of hesitant to do that, really, because it takes it away from the theme of the cartoon. If I'm going to do that, I can print them off and actually just do them then. You know, I can just print another one off of Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and the sign and whatnot, and do them again and put the little tufts of grass on them just to see what it looks like. You never know, it might add to the whole cartoony thing, but at the end of the day, for the ones that I've got to do, I'm going to kind of be faithful and stick to the way that they're kind of done in the cartoons. I think that's just the way it's going to be. So yeah, I'm going to carry on, get all of these parts sanded down, and get rid of all the chicken skin, as I like to call it, and yeah, see where we can go from there. So I'll be back to you as soon as I've made some progress on little Bugsy. Well, we've got all of the bits and pieces for Bugs Bunny sanded down now. It looks as though we're missing a pupil. We've got one, but I don't know where the other one is. The only thing that I can think of is that maybe it failed to print. That's the only thing that I can think of. So I'm going to need to reprint that, and it looks, if you look in there, it looks as though that's a tongue, and there's nothing left in the bag, so I can only presume that failed to print too. Yeah, there's just nothing. Oh, that's even the wrong bag, actually. That's the one, Bugs Bunny. Yeah, no, there's nothing else in there, so I can only presume that the tongue and the other pupil didn't print. So I'm going to have to. I mean, I'm not really in a rush to print those off at the moment, to be fair. But I will need to print those off. What I'm going to do is just put Bugs Bunny back in his bag for the minute, and then once I've and then I'm going to get on and sand down Elmer Fudd, and then once I've done Elmer Fudd, then I can actually, well, in between doing those jobs, I can actually print off his eye and see if his tongue's meant to be there as well, actually, to be fair. Yeah, it's a bit weird. First thing that's happened. The only thing that I haven't actually done is the lettering. Let me see if I can find one of the letters that I was working on. Yeah, it's this one. I just don't like the way that they stick out. If you look at that, they do stick out quite far from the actual sign, and I just don't like that. So I'm going to not do those. All I'm going to do is just, I mean, they are fairly deep, but that's kind of cool in a way. So all I'm going to do is just, once I've painted this, most probably in a deck tan or whatever they call it, that's the colour that I'll most probably end up painting this in, so it's kind of faded. So I think I'll just put some black paint in those, actually, to be fair. I think that would be the better thing to do. I think it'll look better that way. Well, for me anyway. I mean, everybody's different, but for me, I think that would be the best way of doing it, because I just don't like the way that those letters sit. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, to be fair. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to put him in the bag, and then I'm just going to start on Elmer Fudd, so I shall be back in a second with all the bits for him. Okay, back with you again, and this is Elmer Fudd. So we've got his little base there, then we've got these little collary bits there that somehow match up to the bottom of his body. So his bottoms can go on there. We've got 2 feet, 2 arms, 2 legs, this little filler bit that kind of goes somewhere in there as well. Then we've got the little bow that goes on top of the hat. The hat itself is in 4 pieces. We've got the shotgun with the barrel, and that kind of as far as I'm aware, kind of goes on there somehow like that. Although there's a bit missing. Well, I say there's a bit missing there. There was never a bit for there, so I don't really know what is meant to go there, to be fair. I might have to just glue that together and find something that goes in there. I think one of the other things that I might do as well actually is just drill out the actual barrel as well, just to, you know, make it look a bit better. We've also got the gun guard as well, or the trigger guard, that fits in there ish, like so. I mean, I won't actually try and stuff that in there yet because that just does need a little bit of sanding down. We've got both of his eyeballs, both of his pupils. As I say, we've got his hat, which is in 4 pieces, which goes on the top of his big head, which has got quite a bit of chicken skin on it that needs to be taken off. So yeah, that is Elmer Fudd, essentially. Again, nothing too sort of complicated about this one really. As I say, the only thing is the fact that there was nothing there, so I'm going to have to try and somehow get that to match up. Put some ink in there for it to match up, because that just looks a bit silly like that. But yeah, that's Elmer Fudd. So he's going to need some sanding, obviously. Which, well, any model needs sanding really, doesn't matter whether it's resin or plastic. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on, get this all sanded down, and as soon as that's done I will come back to you. Oh, I've got some work done to little old Elmer Fudd. We got the hat together and in one piece. I've had to put a little bit of styrene in there as a filler, because it just sits way too there's too much of a gap at the back of his head there. So if we put this thing on, which sometimes can be a bit tight and other times not, so there you go, you can see there, if it weren't for putting that little bit of plastic in there, there'd be a huge gap. Now all I need to do really is just put a little bit of filler around the edge of that, and that should be fine. We've also got his body together. His feet aren't attached properly at the moment. It's just mainly so I can sort of work on him really and sort of test him on the base and see how he's doing. But this consists, to get his body together, consists of multiple parts. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in the middle, 7, so there's 7 parts to make up his body. Like this part here is the bottom of his jacket, and then you've got a belt that goes around it, and then you've got his body, and then his 2 arms that fit into little holes, and underneath this there's a little spacer that fits down that his body fits onto, and then you've got his little feet which do come out, which is good. I like that idea, and they fit in there quite snugly, which is good as well. I need to sand that one down a little bit more because it's a bit too snug really. But yeah, not too bad looking on that really, to be fair. We've also done a little bit of work with gum. We got the trigger guard and the trigger in. I did have a little bit of a boo-boo with the barrel. I was trying to drill it out to well, make it look a little bit more realistic, I guess. Unfortunately, I used, what was it? Used a 1mm drill bit followed up by a 2mm followed by a 3mm, and then I was going to take it to 4mm, and I started to drill the 4mm and it just shattered the resin. So I need to print me off a new barrel for his gun. I did notice though that the gap that was going to be left here where the barrel goes is going to be covered by his hand. Which one is it? Because his hand actually fits over the gun like so, which is a bit of a weird position to be in, really. So his hand kind of goes like that, a little bit further along. There we go. So it goes about, his hand goes about there, so that will actually cover up the end of the barrel, really, to be fair, from both sides, so you won't see it, because he's kind of in that kind of pose, really, with the gun. Oh, let me get that in camera, I do apologise. Yeah, so the pose is going to be something like so. But it's not looking too bad, actually, really. I mean, his head fits in there quite nicely. It's nice and snug. And then his hat, as I say, goes on the top of his head. And now it's being a pain in the ass. There we go. So yeah, it's a fairly big size, to be fair. If we turn him up that way, he's a fairly big size. I mean, obviously his head is just way too big for his body, but that's just how the cartoons were. Weren't meant to be realistic, were they, really? It's just the fun that you have with the characters. And then that will fit onto the base like so. He will actually scoot forward, because obviously he's top heavy. But I'm kind of hoping that once he's glued down to the base, everything should be alright. If not, then what I'll do is I'll just drill a hole into the bottom of his feet and then into the bottom of the base, and hopefully, well, I'll pin him down to it, and then hopefully it'll be alright. I mean, the body like that stays upright on its own. It's just when you put the head on it, it falls over because it's just too top heavy. So hopefully by putting that on the base, or sorry, by gluing him to the base, that should hopefully stop anything from happening. And I can't see this rocking and falling over on the base. But that's where we are with Mr. Fudd. Everything's sanded down. I mean, we got his little bow that will go on the top of his hat like so as well, which is kind of neat. I think I'll just glue that in afterwards. I mean, that just sits in there. There's no gaps there at all, actually, to be quite honest, when you put that in. There are a few little gaps around the areas of the hat, and when I do the red parts on each side, I'm going to have to mask off the rest of the hat, to be fair, to do that. But yeah, I mean, the colours on this, actually, to be honest, are really, really simple. I mean, you've got kind of like a greenish brown for his jacket and his trousers, and then it's just a dark brown for the barrel of the gun, or sorry, for the stock on the gun, and then they're just using a grey for the trigger and trigger guard, and grey for the barrel, and then just pink for his arms, his hands and his face, and then a combination of white and black for the eyes, and then you got brown boots as well, and then the hat itself is brown, and these two parts down here are red. So there's not really a lot of colour on this, to be quite honest. And then obviously the base is going to be green to simulate grass. So yeah, that's Mr. Fudd at the moment. That's how far we've come. Putting his body together, I had to basically go online, because I was like, you know, well, so I had to go online and actually have a look at the pictures on 3D Cult. And it's from a guy called Red Dad Steve on 3D Cult, this model. And I gotta say, I mean, if he's the one who's designed this, because I know there's sometimes people on 3D Cults or other platforms, they take somebody else's design and then pass it off as their own. So if he was actually the guy that built this, he's done a really, or designed it, should I say, he's actually done a really, really good job of it, to be fair. I'm really happy with the fit and finish on this. There's just a couple of little areas, little niggly areas that are going to need a little bit of putty. But I'll just use the acrylic putty for those. It's just going to be easier to use acrylic putty on these than anything else. Yeah, so that's going to be about it for the moment, guys. I will come back to you as soon as we've got some more work done to this wee beastie.